Hello everybody, welcome back to Formula Online Racing for another exciting round of F2 action tonight, coming from the home of British Motorsport, Silverstone. It is round 5, races 9 and 10 of this F2 season, and what a season it has been so far. We had some great races last time out, especially in Austria just last week, where two debutants really showed their mettle. Lee Findlay in the Trident taking pole position and victory in the feature race, with Josh M97 for Univirtuosi coming all the way from the back of the grid. 17th he was at the start of that 5-lap sprint race, overtaken Alan and Lawrence in one move to take the victory in that race. Borussia in the Prima, he is currently leading the championship. 12 points ahead of Andenge, and it has really been Borussia's consistency that has gotten him that lead. Azerbaijan, the only race meeting so far where he is yet to get a podium. Let's not forget he did actually finish third on track in the sprint race there before losing it on penalties. But he'll be hoping for a good performance tonight, as will all the drivers. It sure promises to be a fascinating race once again around this Silverstone circuit, racing on the layout that they're using F1, of course, being used in this layout since 2011 when the pit lane moved onto the Abbey Straight. It's one of the toughest circuits in Formula 1 and Formula 2 cars. It is definitely no easier with the lack of grip and downforce that these guys have compared to normal. As usual, it's a 30-minute qualifying session followed by a 50% race, so 15 laps for the feature race, and then the standard 5-lap sprint where you expect to see lots of action. Everyone going out on the hard tyres here in qualifying at the moment. Two types of tyres that can be used. It's either the hards or the softs, so that two-step difference does mean you do try and see drivers starting on the hard tyre to try and go a long way, or if they do go for the softs, expect a huge delta between the two types of tyres. Flip-Flop Fish, he's out on circuit at the moment, and he has been a fantastic driver so far in this F2 season. Currently 5th in the championship on 56 points. Best result so far, the victory in the sprint race in Azerbaijan. Him and Andenge were dominant that weekend and they've showed good pace since then. Flip-Flop got a podium last time out. Second place in the feature race in Austria, but just outside the points in the sprint race. So we'll follow him round. He's coming around Stowe now just to see what he can do in his Carling. He's been a very consistent driver so far in this league, picking up 3 podiums. Only Borussia is equal with that number, so you know he's been putting in some fantastic performances. And here he comes now onto the Abbey Straight, heading towards Abbey. Used to be a chicane before the track was updated to add the new pit lane. Now it's a fast right-hander, not flat out in a Formula 2 car by any means. Then you're heading into the loop. Expect to see lots of overtaking around here, even more so than you'll get in the Formula 1 race, because these cars are a bit more forgiving with the dirty air and are of course much smaller than the F1 counterparts. Heading now down the Wellington Straight, coming up towards the Brooklands corner. DRS wide open, 31.6. That is a very decent first sector time. Now Luffield, loads of different lines can be taken around this corner. You never quite know which way they will end up going around this part of the circuit. Heading now up towards Copse, a fearsome corner, especially with the lower downforce and grip in these F2 cars. Changing down a gear, that corner can be easily flat in a Formula 1 car. No such luck this time around. Maggots and Beckett's also much more difficult in these cars. Taking it nice and steady. You don't need to be too greedy. Heading over the curb can easily invalidate your lap at this stage. You can see the rear end stepping out ever so slightly on his Carling. Heading now under the bridge on the Hangar Straight. Droftas, he's the first man to set a lap time with a 1:42.779, instantly beaten by Lawrence. Lawrence in the ALT, Droftas in the Cheroux, but what can Flip-Flop Fish do? See if he can improve on that time. It wouldn't surprise me if on the soft tyres you see drivers getting in the 141s, 140s later on in this qualifying session as the track gets better. And Flip-Flop Fish 1:42.030, laying down a marker early on in this qualifying session. Now Josh, he has been a revelation since he joined Formula Online Racing. Fantastic in the F1 league. Could have easily got a podium last time out, but he just spun in the feature race. That put him towards the back of the grid in the sprint race. That didn't stop him though. He was brutal with his overtaking in that sprint race. Clean but decisive, and he's looking fantastic here. 141.071 on those hard tyres. That's a second faster than anyone else has managed at the moment. That is definitely laying down a marker to his main rivals, Borussia, Lee Findlay, Paulie Orange as well, F1 Championship leader. He's just come across the line with a 141.630. He got a podium on debut in Azerbaijan. He's definitely looking like one to watch this season. And George, my fellow commentators, giving it a go in the Prema tonight. This time Droftas and Lawrence have allowed him to take his seat. He'll be happy that he's managed to get a lap on the board early on in this session. It is Josh, Paulie Orange, Flip Flop Fish, Jon Palainen and Lawrence, your top 5 at the moment. The men in 4th and 5th will be looking for a good weekend this time out. Good race performances. Didn't go to plan for either of them in the feature and the sprint race. Surprising for Lawrence, especially surprising for Jon Palainen, given the consistency he has shown time and time again this season. Was really looking like a proper championship contender. Still up there in 3rd place, but he's now dropped to 22 points behind. He had that gap down to just a single point at one moment, so that shows how bad it went for him last time out in Austria. He'll be looking to bounce back, as will Alian. Things didn't go well for him either in Austria, to be honest. 6th place in the feature, but we tired in the sprint race. You may remember that last lap collision between himself and Lawrence as they were battling to take 2nd place behind Josh. That cost him big style. Somehow he has had a podium despite being ultra consistent. That was his first non-score of the season since he joined at the 2nd round in Spain. He'll be hoping to rectify that. He's definitely been on the cusp of a podium a few times, but for different reasons, just hasn't happened yet. Could be one to watch today, especially in the sprint race. We've seen how much carnage they can be. So Aylan now across the line he comes in the Arden, and that is good enough at the moment for 7th position, slotting in just behind Andenge. And unsurprisingly, we are seeing a few of these guys take multiple laps at getting their tyres warmed up, putting heavier load of fuel in, just getting used to the cars, because they will obviously practice for F2, but nowhere near as much as they are used to driving the F1 cars. These completely different beasts, much less powerful, much less grippier, and much less downforce. So expect to see them fighting the car a lot more through these corners and having to be a bit more steady on the throttle than they would otherwise be. Westy now, he's heading down that hanger straight. Purple in the 2nd sector. He showed pace. He got a podium in the sprint race last time out after a 7th in the feature race. So taking advantage of the reverse grid brilliantly. And that's what you've got to do sometimes to keep picking up points. If things don't go your way in the feature race, as has happened to our championship leader Borussia a few times, you can easily redeem it in the sprint. It's Westy now. He comes around Vale to set his first time in this qualifying session. That is good enough for 5th place, 142.102. And it's still Josh with that big margin at the head of the field at this moment in time. You can see Westy's fellow MP driver there. I think he just went past. I'm not quite sure who that was. Maybe I was just seeing things with the liveries of these cars. But anyway, moving on swiftly. Josh coming out on an out lap, but not too pleased with his 141.0. He'll be hoping to do better. And we've seen the 1 lap pace that this guy has. He can easily keep throwing in lap after lap after lap. He showed that in all 3 qualifying sessions in the F1 race that we saw on Saturday, where he came a few corners away from taking a 2nd consecutive victory in that. He'll be looking for some good results today at the moment. Last time out was his first time in this championship. He managed to get 15 points, but after a good qualifying session, he'd have been hoping for more from that feature race where he spun on his own and then was later on involved in an incident with Hibilu as he was trying to recover his way up the field. So things not exactly going to plan for him as he'd have liked in Austria. And Hibilu is here again tonight, currently last out of those that have set a time. Still got Borussia and Arturo yet to set a time. Borussia on his outlap, as is Arturo, and Lee Findlay in the pits. Maybe just leaving it a bit later, seeing what sort of pace everyone else is doing. Westy was actually up on his best time. That would have been good enough for 3rd place if he could have improved even further, but unfortunately for him, invalidated his lap. He now heads in towards the pits. Aylan, another driver, coming in, so we'll follow Josh once again, see what sort of improvement he can do in that Univirtuosi. Anyone who's driven that car seems to have been gold dust this season. Remember, Dan Murphy was in it at the start of the season, and he started fantastically with a second and a first in Bahrain. Lee Findlay, last time out, becoming only the second driver so far this season to get podiums in both the sprint and the feature race. A brilliant achievement, especially considering that reverse grid. For those of you who aren't familiar with the way an F2 meeting works out, standard F1 points in the feature race, except you get 4 for pole position and 2 for the fastest lap, and then the top 8 are reversed for the sprint. It's slightly reduced points, but it's still a great opportunity to have a very, very handsome weekend if things haven't gone well for you in the feature race. Things going well for Josh in this qualifying session. Fastest of anyone in the first sector. Still staying on these hard tyres. It'll be interesting to see whether anyone does go for the softs for a glory run later on in the session. He's still marginally up on his best time. Could he be the first man to get into the 1 minute 40s? As I was saying, I think we will see a glory run later on from some of these guys. Maybe just on the soft tyres to try and steal those 4 points. 4 pole position points could be oh so crucial by the end of the season. Ending at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, quite a while away yet. Still another 5 meetings to go after this as Josh, he comes across the line. 140.811. 810 it's been rounded down to there. Found a lot of time in that final sector. He's now 8/10 clear of Paulie Orange, definitely showing no signs of slowing up. Jonathan Cox, he's invalidated. Bit of a races of attrition for the ART guys last time. We mentioned how Lawrence was involved in an incident in the feature and the sprint, and Jonathan Cox actually found himself being a bit sandwiched at one point in the sprint race. That dropped him down the field. He's been very consistent in this F2 field. Not won a race at the moment. Highest placed person in the championship yet to win a race. Only 2 podiums, but he's still got a point in every race so far. In fact, his lowest finish was the sprint race last time out in Austria. He'll be hoping to improve on that 11th. I've said it many times on these F2 streams. Him and Lawrence seem to be glued together in these qualifying sessions, as so often in the race as well. If there was a Constructors' Championship in this F2 league, I'm sure they'd be right up there alongside the likes of the Tridents of Andenge and Lee Findlay, and now the Univirtuosis with Josh and Jompalainen. Is Jonathan Cox going to go for another lap? 11th place at the moment, just behind his ART teammate. It looks like he is still concentrated on a flying lap. No traffic ahead of him. You're not really going to expect that around Silverstone, such a wide circuit. 3rd longest on the calendar behind Belgium and Azerbaijan. And of course, in these smaller F2 cars, just seems all that bit bigger than it does in an F1 car. Nearly halfway through the session now, though, and it's still Josh who's gone faster still with a 140.448. He's now more than a second clear of everyone else. Paulie Orange, Flip Flop Fish, Aylan, Jompalainen, and the rest of the top 5. Only Artiero and Lee Findlay yet to set a time, although last week's top point scorer has just come out, and Jonathan Cox invalidating once again. Such a thing you've got to be careful of, especially around Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. So easily to just put 4 wheels over that white line, which will get you invalidated. And it looks like Artiero has done that on a few occasions as well. He's now coming through the same corners, the Campos driver. Seen in F1, sometimes in qualifying things just don't go his way, and then he seems to start further down the grid and he has to fight his way up. Yet to set a time still after invalidating his 2 earlier attempts at a hot lap. What can he go for this time around? Locking up slightly into Stowe, running wide, but that won't affect you too much. It's a very wide corner. You can get away with that, and you can get away with using some liberal interpretations of the track limits as well, as we've just seen from the Campos man. He's now coming to round the final corner across the finish line for Artiero. 2nd position, 141.577, but still no one able to get within a second of Josh. Although I have a funny feeling this man might just change that. Pole position in Austria, took the victory in the feature race, was challenged by Josh. It would have been interesting to see how that would have ended with the 2 on different strategies if Josh hadn't have spun out. Lee Findlay just kept it calm though and managed to get the 3rd place in the sprint as well, scoring the most points anyone has scored over an F2 meeting so far in this championship. He's already on an amazing amount, 39 points already after only being there for one of the meters. Just 46 points off Russia. Another performance like that this time around could put him right up the order. Got yellow flags in sector 1. I believe that is just for George getting out of the way of some cars on his outlap. Very sensible driving from the F1 and PC commentator. You'll be able to hear him again on Friday in the exhibition race, where I'm sure he'll be picking up a few pointers off some of them drivers to give himself a chance in this F2 championship. Lee Finlay, though, not looking as fast as Josh, maybe with a bit more fuel on board, or just maybe not feeling the confidence. You can see a bit of correction through Stowe there. That would have knocked some time off. Nice and clean into club. I think this could be good enough to put him in second place ahead of Westy. At the moment, he now comes across the line. He's actually just behind Westy and Arturo. It's fourth place for the winner last time out. Josh still with a huge margin over everyone else. Just for good measure, it looks like he's going to put the softs on his next run. That is a depressing sight, I think, for everyone to see, that they've not been able to get within a second of Josh at the moment. But Jon Palainen still improving. He's always been a driver that's been light on his tyres. And you can see that he's on his 5th lap on these hard tyres and still finding bits of time. He's a bit low on fuel though. Hopefully he'll be able to get all the way round. His teammate, who said, well in the lead at the moment, but he's very close between the rest of the field. You've got to say 2nd to 5th, separated by less than a 10th. Flip-flop fish not too far behind either. So any slight mistake from anyone in that range could drop them a long way down the order. And hopefully they're as close on the race pace as well, because that will lead to a fascinating feature race and sprint race as well with that reverse grid. Jon Palainen then. Slight improvement on his personal best. He's going to need more than that though to catch up with Aylan, who's currently in 7th position with 13 minutes of this qualifying session to go. Everyone now setting a lap time so far. And a few drivers in the pits electing to change to the softs if they go out again, and Jon Palainen deciding he wasn't finding enough improvement, so he's also heading into the pits. Droftas, not really spoke about Droftas much in the Chiru car. Had a bit of a nightmare in Austria all round really. That includes F1 and F2. Didn't go to plan, didn't score any points in Austria at all. He's had a podium in Azerbaijan, his sole podium so far of the season, but we know he's an extremely consistent driver and he is very capable of picking up results when other drivers are faltering around him. However, he's invalidated his lap as well, so nothing we're going to see from him. We are seeing an improvement though from George now, heading down the hanger straight. Doesn't need to find much to challenge Jonathan Cox and Lawrence down in 12th, 13th and 14th. Less than a 10th, will moving up a pace, but he'll be looking for more than that. Clean through Stowe, taking the racing line now towards Abbey. A lot of times in the race you are going to see battling all the way down the hanger straight into Stowe and Club, I should say. And then Vale to come. George comes across the line. What's he going to do? Big improvement from him. 4/10 of a second, moves him up one place, less than a 10th of a second behind Lawrence at the moment, with 11.5 minutes to go in this session. And someone else who I expect to move up, who I'm surprised is actually down in 11th at the moment, is Andenge, given the form he has shown so far in this F2 season. 2nd in the championship, the only man to have won multiple races so far this season. Took the sprint race in Spain and then followed that up with back-to-back wins at Azerbaijan in the feature race. He's finding himself a long way off pole position at the moment, but that gap, as you can see, that Josh has got, I should say, Josh to Westy is bigger than the gap than Westy to George down in 13th. It's that close if you just take Josh out of the picture. And if he drives like this in the race, he is going to be out of the picture for most of these drivers. Bit like Andenge and Flip-Flop Fish were in Azerbaijan, where we could very well see maybe a double victory this time, because we know Josh can do it starting at the back of the grid. If he wins the feature race, he'll only drop down to 8th, so that should be a double for him in the Univirtuosi, as Andenge just having to do a bit of correction mid-corner at the club chicane. That is not ideal, and you can just see how it's killed all the pace of his car, and it is not an improvement from him. He stays in 11th place for now. 10 minutes to go in this session, and it is Josh, Westy, Arturo, your top 3. Pole sitter from last time out, Lee Finlay, only finding himself 4th place at the moment. Paulie Orange, he is improving. As we said, it's extremely close. If we can just carry this improvement through Sector 2 at the moment, it's time coming up now. Over a quarter of a second. That is good from him. This should be enough to get the Dams car on the front row provisionally. Another driver that is all about consistency, but he has the speed to match as well. Second place on debut, as we said, in Azerbaijan. He's kept it clean so far in the F2 races, and he looks nice and clean around this part of the circuit. As he heads now towards the finish line, it is enough to put him in second place with a 141.375, pushing Westy and Arturo down. Lee Findlay, he's just cruising around at the moment, so he's not going to find any improvement on his hard tyres. Maybe worth going to the pits, chucking on a set of them soft tyres for a last blast at trying to get pole position in this race as Jonathan Cox off the circuit at the loop. I'm not sure if he was on a hot lap there or if he was just slowing down. 7th position at the moment for the ART, but either way he's going to have to head into the pits. We've got more yellow flags ahead, and that is just for Paulie Orange slowing down on the left hand side to get out the way, but there is no way Jonathan Cox is going to be on a hot lap at the moment. Well, I've seen a few more drivers heading out now on track. It's getting quite busy in the latter parts of this session. Droftas as well. You just see how this lack of grip is catching these guys out ever so slightly, having to make way more corrections to the steering wheel than you would normally see in a Formula 1 car from these drivers. But Droftas is keeping it clean so far. Slight improvement, 0.03 of a second, sort of in a bit of no man's land compared to the rest of this qualifying. He's got a quarter of a second ahead of him to Andenge, nearly 2 tenths back to Lawrence, so needs to find a big chunk of time if he wants to challenge the top 10 in this session, which is currently being held by Bavushev, a championship leader in 10th place. He'll be wanting to improve on that in a big way. He's currently heading round on his hot lap around Luffield, so we're joining him after we've watched Droftas finish off his lap in the Chiru Sauber Junior car. Is it an improvement in Sector 2? Yes, it is. He's now a 10th up on his personal best, so this should make him more safe in 12th place, but he's going to need a mighty final sector to move up ahead of Andenge, Bavusha and Jon Palainen. To get anywhere close to these guys, you're going to have to be absolutely perfect on the brakes. Just hear the car losing grip, and you can just see it there. In fact, he's going round. Droftas is round. It's what I've been saying all session. It is so easy in these F2 cars to just lose the back end. Nowhere near as much downforce as these guys are used to, and he has gone round. And Denge heading into the pits. Bavusha has in fact invalidated his lap, so 10th place might well be the best he can do in this session, depending on how much fuel he's got on board, because they are running out of time now. 7 minutes remaining, less than a quarter of this session to go, and it is of course quite a long lap around this Silverstone circuit. Jon Palainen, he's also invalidated his lap, and Denge still in the pit. So let's see what Lawrence is doing. He's found an improvement. I've said many times he's always close to Jonathan Cox, it seems to be in qualifying sessions, but there's 8 tenths of a second between the two ARTs at the moment, so either Jonathan Cox has put in a storming lap, or it says to me Lawrence has got a lot more to find in this session. Sure, he'll still be smarting a bit from the results in Austria, where he could well have had a good point score in the feature race and even a victory in the sprint race, and came away with no points for his team. He's only found a 10th at the moment, just over, so Droftas could be under pressure here. Anyone else should be looking pretty safe from the ART. Can he keep it clean though into club, unlike we saw what Droftas did in his Chiru? He got a bit skiddy heading into this corner. Just here then, no tyre squeal, everything nice and under control from Lawrence. Nice and smooth now round Vale. He comes across the line, and it's a 142.360. Does move him ahead of Droftas, but not able to challenge Andenge at the moment. And Flip Flop Fish is going for this pole position. He's on his outlap on those soft tyres. He wants the 4 points at this moment in his Carly. He wants to take it away from Josh, who's sitting in the pits with a set of soft tyres ready. So I'm sure he could come out if he wanted to. Jon Palainen. Sorry, Jonathan Cox, he's also gone for the soft tyres. Lee Findlay invalidating his lap time. We've got a few cars out on hot laps at the moment and out laps. Jon Palainen 2 tenths up in the middle sector. on his previous best. Could he challenge Alan here for P8? Maybe even Jonathan Cox in P7. Locking up into club, running deep. Is that going to be the difference between 8th and 9th for the Finn at the moment? He heads across the line. Jompalainen 200ths behind. Definitely lost some time in that final sector. 9th place, all he is able to do at the moment. They are running out of time. 4.5 minutes remaining. Lee Findlay just gearing up for a hot lap. Doesn't want to be stuck behind George, who kindly lets him out of the way. In fact, Lee Findlay heading into the pits now. So is he going to chuck on the soft tyres? Because it looks like that's what we're seeing from a few of these drivers. Paulie Orange and Westy haven't gone for it. Flip Flop Fish, Jonathan Cox, Josh are putting on those soft tyres and going for a glory run in this session. Surely you'd think if Josh gets a clean run on those softs, he should take pole position here. He's been that clear of the field so far, but we will have to wait and see. Flip Flop Fish is going to be first man round though on these soft tyres. He's got some traffic ahead of him. Droftas on an out lap. He's got one of the Primas ahead of him as well. That'll be George. And George is on a hot lap as well, so I can't imagine Flip Flop Fish is going to catch him up at any point. He's getting a bit of a tow here actually off Droftas. Just a mild one, but every little helps. There we go. The advantage of the soft tyres. Nearly half a second up alone in the first sector. If Josh Artiero, Jonathan Cox don't keep it clean, maybe there's a chance for pole position here for Fish in his Carling. We'll follow him around for the rest of this lap just to get an idea of how much time they are gaining on these soft tyres in this qualifying session. Happens a lot in F2. You get this final mad dash to try and set the fastest time. It's Josh, Paulie Orange, Westy, Artiero, Lee Findlay. We've just seen Jompalainen move up to 4th on his hard tyres. He's found a big improvement on 7-lap old tyres. Imagine what he could have done if they were a bit fresher. He won't be complaining with that though. It's all looking good for Virtuosi so far. Flip Flop Fish a second up on his personal best. This should be good enough for provisional pole position, but will he stay there for long? Droftas kindly getting out of the way. He's giving a great tow to Flip Flop Fish down the 2 main straights here, and I'm sure the American driver won't be complaining of that. But can he keep it clean around these final couple of corners? Doesn't invalidate his time there. That is crucial. He now heads towards the finish line, and it's a 140.188. Expect to see an improvement though from this man. He was faster in the first sector than his own personal best. This should be a 139 time, maybe even a 138 if he absolutely nails Maggots, Beckett and Chappell. That didn't look too shabby to me. All looking good at the moment for Josh. You can see 8 tenths up on his personal best. This should be pole position for him. It's just whether anyone else can challenge. Jonathan Cox with a 140.4 provisionally up into second place. But I think he's only going to be there for about another 15 seconds before we see Josh Univirtuosi take provisional pole position. And it's going to be hard on this form, you'd imagine, for anyone to challenge him in this qualifying session. Josh rounds the final corner, heads across the line, and it's a 139.264. Showing his dominance that he's had here today. He takes provisional pole position. Can anyone get close? Artiero's invalidated his lap, but he's going to have one more go at it. Droftas, what's he doing? He's also invalidated. Has he got enough fuel to get around? We'll have to wait and see. Aylan's going out on the hards again. This will be his final time. We've got yellow flags in Sector 2, and I think that is just Jompalainen. Maybe just getting out of the way more than anything. Or has he run out of fuel? It's looking very much like the Univirtuosi has run out of fuel, so that is going to be a very long and slow hog back to the pits. Artiero at the moment, 7th place. Can he look to get a front row slot? Only less than 3 tenths in that first sector. That's a small advantage we found compared to some of these other guys, especially Flip Flop Fish, who found nearly half a second in that first sector. So this is going to be to try and get on the front row. Half a minute remaining. Checker flag will be out shortly. Josh, I feel, is pretty safe. Second place, Flip Flop Fish and Jonathan Cox in third. Definitely not that safe at the moment. Artiero's kept it nice and hooked up. What times are we getting further back? Those on the soft tyres. Droftas, obviously he'd invalidated, so we're yet to see what he can do. Got Westy now. Is he coming across the line? He's also still on the hards actually, Westy, so he will not be making improvement. Aylan Also on the hards, he's invalidated. Jompalainen heading into the pits. Josh already there. Checkered flag out. Artiero will be the next man across the line in the Campos car. What can he do now? Round this final corner. Can he get his way up into the front row position? It'd be a great result for him and a great confidence boost. He's shown some good pace. Just needs to show a bit more consistency. Just missing out on a front row slot with a 1:40.2 at the moment. That puts him in third place. Borussia, he's invalidated, so he's going to be no better than 10th. And Denge is absolutely flying around here. Hibilu, he's just missed out actually on setting a faster time. So Hibilu will be starting from the back of the grid. See what some of these others can do. Lawrence, he's heading now into the final section of corners. He's 13th. He's got Draftas just behind him in 14th at the moment. Where's this going to put Lawrence? That moves him up to 5th, just behind his teammate. Draftas, he comes across the line. He moves up to 5th, knocking down Lawrence a place. It's Andenge. He's going to be the last man across the line in this qualifying session. Where can he get himself up the grid? 6th position for him. Jonathan Cox, he's now coming around the final corner, but it's not going to be an improvement from him. So 4th place for him in an ART. Again, showing that consistency as Westy heads into the pits. Aylan, though, he's finding some time on these hard tyres. Is he going to move himself up? He's not going to be the fastest man on the hards, but he could get himself 9th position if he keeps it all nice and tidy around the final corner, and he does. 9th position from Aylan. Huge improvement at the end of this session. Half a second. Bravo to him. Big bravo, though. Josh, pole position by an absolutely huge margin. Nearly a second in this qualifying session. Will anyone be able to stop him taking his 2nd victory of the season in the feature race? You see there, he gets 4 points for that. Flip-Flop Fish and Artiero, the only drivers to get within a second. Jonathan Cox 4th. Droftas moving up to 5th with a last-minute lap, as did Andenge in 6th. Lawrence in 7th. Paulie Orange, fastest guy on the hard tyres, in 8th. Aylan 9th. Westy 10th. Jompalainen 11th. Lee Findlay 12th. He'll be disappointed with that after getting pole last time out. Hibilu did manage to move up to 13th in the end. Borussia 14th, our championship leader, struggling in qualifying again. And George making his debut in the Prema, down in 15th position. This looks like it could be a very good race. Lots of different strategies and lots of interesting battles, I am sure. Just a reminder, this stream is brought to you by MIXT Energy. Use the code FOR2020 to get a 20% discount with also Player One coffee. That link is in the description below. And all the drivers will just be getting their strategies ready now over what looks like a very overcast Silverstone. I imagine that is quite a common phrase given the British weather. They'll be getting ready now for the race, seeing what they can do. A reminder, no formation lap, and then it will be 15 laps of this Silverstone circuit. Josh looking dominant in qualifying, looking very fast on the hards, very fast on the softs. He'll be hoping he can keep that up, and he'll be hoping he can keep it clean in the feature race this time around, because that did cost him big time last time. A probable podium, a possible win, robbed from him by his own mistake, and then an incident with a back marker later on. So there we go, the lights are coming on. It's 3, it's 4, it's 5. Then once they go out, the feature race will be underway here at Silverstone. Lights out, off we go. Big wheel spin there. Flip-Flop Fish not getting the best of starts. He's dropped way down the field, so that's allowed Artiero to take 2nd position. But it is Josh leading into turn 1. Jonathan Cox trying to move up as well. And then Andenge behind. Flip-Flop Fish dropping all the way down to 6th place at the moment. Andenge and Jonathan Cox battling through the loop section at the moment, but everyone through there cleanly. So it's Josh, Artiero, Cox, and Denge still battling. In fact, he's managed to make his way through. Droftas has got Flip-Flop Fish and Lawrence all over the back of him. Lee Findlay's gained a few places as well. But he's got Westy all over the rear wing of his Trident at the moment. Westy's going to have a go into Brooklands, taking 8th place for now, but expect to see Lee Findlay holding him off all the way around as we've got Droftas and Flip-Flop Fish up ahead, also battling for 5th and 6th position. Flip-Flop Fish finding himself on the outside. Has he got enough momentum, though, to maintain the lead heading into Corps? This is going to be oh so tight. Droftas, in the end, just dropping back, so stays in 6th for now. We'll quickly get up the position changes on that lap. Great start from Andenge and Lee Findlay. Trident's moving up 7 places combined. Bit of a disaster though for Flip Flop Fish and Paulie Orange. They lost 3 and 4 places respectively. Paulie Orange dropping outside the points, and he was the highest driver on those hard tyres, so he will be gutted with that, because it could have been a very decent race for him if he'd have managed to stay in that position. And Borussia actually dropping to the back of the field as well. Lee Findlay, he's gone for a late move there on Lawrence. Is he able to make it stick into Stowe? Lawrence is going to hold it off and will have the inside for the next corner, so not able to do anything. Two Premers swapping around, as in fact Lee Findlay goes for it once again into Club. Very decisive overtake from the Trident driver to take 7th place. He knows he needs to move his way up through the field. Out in front though, Josh has got that gap up to over second. In fact, Lawrence must have made a mistake on the exit of that corner. I'm not sure if he got clipped by Lee Findlay at all, but Lawrence dropped quite a few places there. Paulie Orange seems to get a very bad exit as well. Is he just letting Jompalainen by, or something happened with those two, because they've dropped down the field as Paulie Orange? Oh, I thought he was going to have a look at George then into the loop section. So the Framers have benefited from whatever's happened there, because they've moved themselves up into 12th and 13th place. Flip Flop Fish, he's all over the back of Jonathan Cox. The ART having to go defensive into Bucklands, and Jonathan Cox holding on to that place for now. Can Flip Flop Fish do the cutback? Not able to do it into Luffield. He'll be hoping to get a better exit on the run down to Cops, and already that gap at the head of the field is extending. It's nearly 2 seconds, just like F1. DRS will only be activated on lap 3, and Artiero escaping from Andenge as well, so there's a great chance for him to get his first podium. Although if he's pushing so hard, he's getting a time penalty after 2 laps. This could be a very long race around this Silverstone circuit for him. But it's Josh, Artiero, Andenge, and then this battle for 4th and 5th that you are seeing on screen at the moment between Jonathan Cox, Flip Flop Fish and Droftas, Lee Findlay, Westy. All the cars still racing at the moment, hoping to get a chance of a podium here. We've seen George and Borussia swap again, as Borussia has retired from the session. Championship leader Borussia in the wall. He'll be starting from the back of the grid in the sprint race. He'll be hoping for a similar sprint performance to what Josh had last time out, but things just don't seem to be going well for him in the feature race so far. Since at least Spain, I'd say he's had a bit of a struggle in the feature race. We've got more yellow flags in sector 3. That is Lee Findlay, who has gone round coming out of Club. He now drops to the back of the field. Goodness me, it's all kicking off here. Droftas, he's lost a few places as well, as Lawrence gets guns a bit wide into Abbey. That's just causing a bit of chaos behind him as a few drivers take avoiding action. Paulie Orange managed to get through, and Hibilu says thank you very much as well. He's trying to chuck his car down the inside. He had to slam on the brakes there as George has gone round as well. George has gone round into the loop. They are really struggling with the grip. It is cold conditions obviously, and that will have an effect of the overcast. They're just not used to these F2 cars, and they are finding it really difficult out here tonight. They are pushing mightily hard, as is Josh, race leader. 2 seconds that gap now. He's just getting away ever so slightly. If he keeps it under control, this should be his first 25 points of the F2 season. Further back though, Flip Flop Fish all over the back of Jonathan Cox. Not close enough to have a go into Cops. He's got a bit of a gap behind now. Aylan up into 6th place with Westy 7th, Droftas 8th, Lawrence 9th, and Paulie Orange rounding out the top 10. It's all about Flip Flop Fish. If he just keeps it nice and clean through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. He seems to drop back a bit there in the ditch. Yeah, DRS open. Is he going to be close enough to have a lunge into Stowe? He's going to gain ever so slightly. That rear wing opening on the Carlin car. Not close enough this time around though to have a go. These two on the hard tyres, so expect them to go a lot longer into this race than those ahead of them. So they will take the lead at some point, you'd imagine, but they probably won't be staying there towards the end. Lap 4 underway now as Jonathan Cox trying not to get stuck on that sausage curve. That has compromised his line ever so slightly. Abbey's not really an overtaking spot. The Flip Flop Fish keeps it tidy. He'll be in a great position to have a go through the loop, but once again, these high downforce corners, Jonathan Cox able to pull away, and there'll have to be another few corners before Flip Flop Fish can have a go. Westy, he's closing up on the back of Aylan for 6th and 7th place, and then you Droftas, Lawrence, Paulie Orange, all extremely close together at the moment. But here we go. Jonathan Cox in 4th. Is he going to have to go defensive on the Carlin? You can see him moving across already. He's left one car width, and Flip Flop Fish says thank you very much, as Jonathan Cox has gone way deep on the brakes there, lost the position, and that is going to drop him maybe into the clutches of Aylan. Lawrence managing to defend from Paulie Orange, who's got Hibilu and Jompalainen all over the back of him. Lee Findlay trying to get onto the back of the main pack as well. He wants to pick up some points in this race. Wouldn't surprise me if he aims for 8th position. That would give him pole in the sprint race, of course. So now that Flip Flop Fish is clear of Jonathan Cox, he will be aiming for Andenge, who is 5 seconds up the road. Pretty obvious who Westy in 7th position is currently aiming for. He's got Aylan just ahead of him. DRS open on the MP Motorsport car. He's getting ever so closer. Is he going to be close enough to have a lunge into Stowe? Not this time around. Paulie Orange as well, not close enough to the back of Lawrence. Lawrence getting a bit of DRS assistance off Drofter, so this could be a big battle for 8th place. Maybe an undercut will be decisive, and already I said Vitalias won't last long. Those softs, Artiero and Andenge coming in to make their one and only pit stop in this feature race on lap 4. Josh managing to stay out, shows what a mighty job he's doing at the moment. He's now got a 10-second lead, but will have to pit, I imagine, next time around, as Lawrence not getting a good run there for Abbey, and that's given Paulie Orange all the invite he needs. Just got a bit compromised there, just caught up Lawrence, if anything, too soon. Wasn't able to do anything at that point of the track, and having to stay behind now. They'll both have DRS though, because of Droftas just ahead, and that is going to make it very difficult for the Dams to get past. He might have to try something a bit more inventive if he wants to get ahead of Lawrence and Droftas. We know they are both very smart racers, extremely quick, all the guys in this F2 field. No one is easy to overtake, especially around a circuit such as this one. As Lawrence really going round there, and that's the opportunity Paulie Orange needed, and that's going to allow Aylan to get a much better run down towards Cops. They're going to be side by side. I don't think Aylan's going to be able to brave it around the outside. He's going to give it a go, you know. He's trying his hardest. He's just runs wide, and that's going to put him under threat from Jon Palainen. That's actually Hibilu, sorry, who was trying to get past. Not Aylan, who is currently in 4th place, and Hibilu went to go for an overtake. It was worth a try. It's ended up costing him a position, and Jon Palainen taking the opportunity. He now moves up into P9 in the Univirtuosi. His teammate Josh has come into the pits. Josh at the end of lot 5 heading into the pits. That will give Flip Flop Fish the lead. Jon Palainen, he's now closing up to the back of Lawrence. Paulie Orange getting past Droftas into Stowe. So he'll be setting his sights on Westy and Aylan after that bad start. A reminder, he was 8th on the grid. He was the highest out of those on the hard tyres. And at the moment, he's only finding himself in what would be 5th position. Josh coming down the pit lane after his one and only pit stop. Hibilu also heading into the pits. George doing a great job on these soft tyres, trying to get them to last. He's staying out. We'll see where Josh comes out on the circuit. It will be in 11th place, I believe, just behind George, but importantly he's got a big gap ahead of those who pitted earlier. He still maintains the net lead of this race, and as long as he doesn't get involved in any silly incidents with traffic, you feel it'll be a great opportunity for him to take his 2nd win of the season and 2nd in a row after his sprint race in Austria. And his teammate is still on the back of Lawrence. That gap remaining pretty consistent though at the moment. Feel like I might have brought the curse on Lawrence when I said there's no one easy to overtake in this field, and then he made a slight mistake. He's not been the only person tonight. Borussia out of the race. We've seen Lee Findlay drop down the field. George has spun. A few drivers have got sideways at various points in qualifying. No one is finding this circuit easy at the moment. And Westy, he's closer to Aylan than we've seen him for a while, and they're both catching up to Jonathan Cox, in fact. The Westy, this is the closest he's been, and this is going to be a great opportunity for him to get himself up into 3rd place. Aylan choosing not to defend. Is he going to try and hold it off round the outside? But Westy's far superior on the brakes that time around into Stowe. And as we head towards the end of lap 6, the MP Motorsport car moves into a podium position. Further back, Lawrence has still defended from Jon Palainen. We are on lap 7 out of 15. We'll soon be heading on to lap 8 the next time around, so we're nearly at the halfway point of this race. And it is Flip Flop Fish, Jonathan Cox and Westy your top 3. But a reminder, Josh Artiero and Andenge, they have all pitted. Don't have to pit again. Lee Findlay's coming in. That's extremely early on those hard tyres. Very interesting. I wonder if he had any damage at all. George, he's decided to ditch those softs after 6 laps. I imagine they were well past there at best. He's still going though in his debut race in this F2 league. More than you could say for his teammate Borussia. who's going to have a mighty job on his hands to keep the championship lead this time around. Quick reminder, after this meeting we are at the halfway point through the season, and it'll be Hungary, Belgium, Italy, Russia, and then Abu Dhabi to finish it off. And it looks like it's going to be tough for people to stop drivers like Josh Flip Flop Fish to stop running away from the championship, because they are in great form at the moment. John Palainen still behind Lawrence. He was another driver who we thought might have a chance of winning this championship, but after dropping back in Austria, looks like he's going to be in the lower reaches of the points again here. As is so often the case in F2, that does give you a great opportunity in the sprint race. Of course, he has dropped back a lot on this lap from Lawrence, or just spreading out, I feel, as the tyre wear becomes more of a factor on these hard tyres. One man who's not dropping back, though, is Westy. Now that he's free of Alan, he is right on the back of Jonathan Cox in the ART. He's got a much better exit out of Stowe, and he's going to be in a position to have an overtake into Club. Decides not to go for it this time around. Feel like he could have caught Jonathan Cox by surprise there if he had just thrown it up the inside, but staying careful, knowing he's got more pace, knowing he's got more time, maybe just waiting for the DRS zone at the end of the Wellington Straight. Lap 8 of this race, Flip Flop Fish maintaining a 5-second lead at the moment, but it is Josh with a net 5-second lead over Artiero, down in 9th and 10th at the moment. They'll be making their way through the field, and it won't be too long, I feel, before they catch it up to Jon Palainen. DRS open now on that MP Motorsport car. Jonathan Cox decides to go defensive into Brooklands. He's going to stay ahead. We've already seen him run very wide at one point in this corner. Can Westy do the cutback into Luffield? No. But if he keeps it nice and tidy, I think Jonathan Cox there being very clever, just making sure not to get on the throttle too early and open up the door to Westy. But is Westy going to be able to get alongside heading into Corps? Slight bit of contact between the two of them there. And in the end, Westy just having to back off. Jonathan Cox being very forceful with his defending at this point in the race, but he's not had a great exit through Corps. You would be very brave to have a go around the outside at Maggots and Beckett's. And again, Westy deciding discretion is the better part of valour, and he will give it a go another time around. Although in his pursuit, he has just earned himself a 3-second penalty. And Aylan's got a great view of all this happening. He's just dropped back ever so slightly, but still on for a great performance. He's currently in 4th place. If he did manage to stay there, that would be his best result of the season. In fact, he's yet to finish in the top 5. See the car diving off in towards the pits. That is Jonathan Cox. Again, that is another early pit stop on these hard tyres. When you consider George was the only driver to get the softs to last 6 laps, he's going to have to get a lot more on them. Jon Palainen, he's also heading into pits. He's got himself a penalty for speeding in the pit lane. They're definitely finding themselves stuck and trying to make an undercut work here. Jonathan Cox to get an advantage on Westy, and Jon Palainen to get himself past Lawrence, as we now see Josh set the fastest lap of the race. He's been promoted up into 7th place after all of that. He'll soon be on the back of this battle. Droftas 5th, Lawrence 6th, still yet to pit, of course, and they're going to have the attentions of the leaders very shortly, with Lawrence right underneath the rear wing of the Cheroux just ahead. He's going to have the inside line into Brooklands. Droftas, his best opportunity is going to be to try and hang it off all the way around the outside. He's trying his hardest, not able to do so at the moment. Lawrence running ever so slightly wide into Luffield. He'll get a better exit out of that corner though when he takes 5th place. But now Droftas is going to be oh so close though, heading towards Corps and through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. So this battle definitely not over at the moment. I'm sure Josh will be hoping that one of these two does pit before he catches up to them. He does not want to get caught in anyone else's battling, because it is for position. There'll be no blue flags, of course, and they are more than entitled to fight as hard as they want for this on-track position. I'm not sure they're going to have the tools to fight that hard with 5-lap older tyres, but they'll definitely give it a shot. As Lawrence not feeling the need to go that defensive, maybe Droftas could try the dummy here. Not close enough to give it a Nigel Mansell down the inside there. We're now seeing Westy heading to the pits after 8 laps on his hard tyres. Paulie Orange following. You see there yet Droftas coming in as well. I'm sure Josh will love to see that. We might not be a fan of how short a span these hard tyres seem to have at the moment. See now George, he gets a penalty for multiple warnings. Jonathan Cox coming out in 10th place. Can he catch up to Andenge? That gap is 6 seconds at the moment. He's got fresher tyres. It's just all about whether they can last 7 laps until the end of this race. They'll be past their best, I feel, towards the end, and could get very interesting indeed. So Westy up all the orange, Brofdas pitting on that lap, and you can just see how much pitting earlier has worked for Jonathan Cox. He is now well ahead of Westy. Those two were all over each other. His gap is already 2 seconds. Going longer is what Flip Flop Fish, Alan, Lawrence are trying. It's going to cost them in the short term. It's just whether it's beneficial in the long run. Flip Flop Fish on his own at the moment, 8.2 seconds in the lead of this race. He'll be hoping he can still come out ahead of Jonathan Cox and Westy. He should be able to. It's just how close he can get to Andenge and Arturo. There's still a great chance for the Carling driver to get a podium in this race. Do not count him out. He's shown his pace in F2 cars and in F1 many times so far this season. He does indeed now head into the pits. Josh all over Lawrence. I was going to say all over the back of him, but he was already alongside him by the time I cut to shot. He's ahead before we even get to Stowe, and that is the Univirtuoso car up into third place. That will become second very shortly. The Flip Flop Fish has pitted, which is allowing Alan to take the lead of this race on lap 11. Lawrence coming in as well, so it will be Alan, Josh, Arturo and Denge, your top 4. Flip Flop Fish will come out just behind those drivers, I believe. It's going to be close to see where he is relevant to Jonathan Cox. He was a bit behind on track, but pitted much earlier, but 2 laps earlier than Flip Flop Fish, and we've seen how effective the undercut has already been as Flip Flop Fish is coming out of the pit lane. He's going to have the momentum, and he is just clear of Jonathan Cox. That could be important for the race of the Carling driver at the moment, because he's got a clear run to Andenge, 2.3 seconds ahead of him, and 6 lap fresher tyres and the soft compound. It's going to be a challenge, I feel, for the Trident driver Andenge to keep Flip Flop Fish behind him for the rest of this race. We're on lap 11 then. Alan's still in the lead, the only driver yet to have pitted. Lawrence coming out in 10th place, just ahead of Hibilu, having a better time of it than he was in Austria, keeping it clean so far, and if we see some retirements, he could still get into the points. He's going to find it hard to battle with Lawrence being on those harder tyres, but like I said, if he keeps it clean, mistakes from those ahead, we've only had 1 retirement so far. That was of Birosha. But a few different drivers have picked up penalties, and any big incidents could make it oh so crucial at the end of the race if you've managed to keep it clean. Westy's closed that gap to Jonathan Cox supremely quickly. It was 2 seconds when he came out of the pit lane. Within 2 laps, he's already got himself within DRS range of the ART. This could be a battle right towards the end of the race. Is Westy another driver who sniffs a podium opportunity perhaps, with Flip Flop Fish and Andenge not too far ahead? Running wide out of Stowe, the game allows you to do that. He's not having a go into club again. He seems reluctant to have a go into some of these corners. He's going to have a much better run though coming out of club, as long as he can keep it clean through Vale. Are we going to see him maybe have a go into Abbey? He's just got a bit too close to the back of Jonathan Cox. This has been mightily brave from the MP driver, and thinks better of it this time around. Though with the defending Jonathan Cox is having to do, you feel it's only a matter of time before Westy takes 5th place off him. I thought for a second there Jonathan Cox almost left the door open, and I think that just put Westy off ever so slightly. He's got a bad exit there. That could be all Jonathan Cox needs to hold on to this place for a bit longer. Flip Flop Fish show's already caught up to Andenge. He's having to go down the inside into Bucklands. Andenge is going to be able to hold it off though into Luffield. Has Flip Flop Fish got the grip to just go all the way around the outside? You can just see the acceleration there from the Carling. He takes 3rd place. Arturo, his next target. 5 seconds up the road is very possible with how fast he's caught up that he could do that. So we could see Flip Flop Fish take a 2nd position here, as Westy still all over the back of Jonathan Cox. And the chances these two have got of getting a podium are just slipping away. Westy needs to make the best of their 1 lap fresher tyres and the pace he seems to have over Jonathan Cox at the moment, who again picks up a penalty. He's having to defend oh so hard at the moment to just keep Westy behind him, but surely this is going to be the best opportunity he's had so far. Jonathan Cox He's going to force him all the way around the outside at Stowe. Squeezes him slightly, leaves him racing room. Westy, he tries to hold it off around the outside. If he can do so, he'll have the inside for the club chicane. And he has done so. He takes 5th position. Jonathan Cox not able to fight back. That battle has been going on for quite a few laps. And Westy finally getting the upper hand for now, taking that 5th position. Out in front though, 2 laps remaining. It is Josh, 9.3 seconds ahead of Artiero, and the Campos driver could soon find himself looking in his mirrors at Flip Flop Fish, who was already pulled out nearly 2 seconds over Andenge. Trying to see where else so we could see some battles out on track. Aylan's got slightly fresher tyres than Paulie Orange, though I think Paulie Orange should be able to get them to last comfortably towards the end. Droftas catching up to Lee Findlay, who was the first man to pit for them soft tyres. I thought it was a bit early, and I feel last week's feature race winner is already paying the price for that, with Droftas not too far behind. These are outside the points. 12th and 13th will be starting in whatever position they finish. It is only the top 8 that are eligible for the reverse grid, and that position currently held by Aylan. He's yet to have a podium this season, and it looks like the sprint race is going to be a fantastic chance for him. He was in a podium spot in Spain, was spun around by Barushi. He was in a podium spot in Azerbaijan and lost it into turn 1. He was in a podium spot in Austria and was involved in that incident with Lawrence, and he's going to have a pole position as it stands for the sprint race, so this could be his best opportunity so far this season to take advantage of that. Jonathan Cox is still managing to stay just within a second of Westy, just staying in contact. That might be keeping him safe from attack from Paulie Orange with only 2 laps remaining, but I think 6th place is going to be where the ART finishes on track. We'll wait and see if penalties do anything about that. Westy though has quickly turned his attention to catching up to Andenge. That gap 1.5 seconds. Andenge is going to find it hard to keep him behind, although Westy might drop back behind him if he has too many more of them. I'm just going to have a very quick check of the penalty situation. We have Josh, who has got 2 warnings at the moment. Artiero has 2 penalties, which equals 6 seconds. Flip Flop Fish has kept it clean, so it's looking good for him to get second. And Denge has also kept it clean. And Westy has 2 penalties at the moment. So Artiero, if Andenge keeps in contact with him, maybe Artiero could be the man who finds himself dropping off the podium. We'll have to wait and see. It's going to be extremely close by the looks of things and could well be decided as they head across the finish line. Not long to go. Josh only has about 1.5 laps to go to claim victory here. Westy has the same amount of time to catch up to Andenge. It's going to be a big ask for Flip Flop Fish to get onto the back of Artiero, but he doesn't need to do that because of penalties. But he'll be wanting to take the position out on track, of course. Further back, Droftas is still behind Lee Findlay. Seems to be the gap staying ever so constant in the field. So I think this could be how they finish out on track. It's just if Westy can catch up to Andenge. You know, can he get in DRS range at the next part of the track? We'll have to wait and see. And Lee Findlay doing an incredible job on those 7-lap-old softs to keep Droftas behind. We've actually got George not too far behind, so he's still carrying around at the moment in last place, but he'll be happy that he's finishing his first race as long as he can keep it clean on the final lap of the race at the moment. Josh has started his final lap. These have still got a bit more to go as Artiero does pick up another penalty. See Lee Findlay trying to break the slipstream there of Droftas, and Droftas just says, right, fine, I'll try and go around the outside of you. And Lee Findlay locking up slightly into Stowe. That's going to give Droftas a chance to get a better exit on the edge of the corner. He's going to have to go the long way around at Club. Not close enough to attempt it. Lee Findlay's going very deep. You can just see how much those softs are wearing. You just see that compromise Droftas slightly because he's not able to put the power down because all of a sudden there was a big trident in the way of him. So these are going to be very close. This is going to be a battle to watch towards the end. Just for pride, but you know they want to finish as high up as they possibly can, of course. Further back, Paulie Orange, he's caught up to Jonathan Cox. All of a sudden, he's getting very close to the back of that ART. So, Paulie Orange, if he stays where he is, he'll start second in the feature race, in the sprint race, but he'll be aiming for the extra point to get as Jonathan Cox not getting a good exit out of Cops. That's going to compromise him through the next few corners. wait and see if they're able to have a position change there. But out in front, almost unchallenged. In fact, Paulie Orange is going to get it done very early on down the straight as Josh, he now heads across the finish line to take his second victory in a row. It's a win for him in the feature race as Paulie Orange has held on to that 6th place into Stowe. Artiero, next man across the line. He's in second. Penalties will drop him behind. Flip Flop Fish, who takes that 2nd place. And then he comes across the line, also knocks Artiero down. Westy crossed the line in 5th, but he's going to drop behind Paulie Orange, behind Aylan. Jonathan Cox dropping to 8th place. So he will end up taking pole position for the sprint race. Just the rest of the field coming through now. Jon Palainen in 9th. He'll be disappointed with that. Seems to have lost the mighty form he had at the start of this F2 league. Lawrence 10th. Hibilu 11th. And still Lee Findlay locking up those softs. Still Droftas can't find a way past him, and no wonder. He's actually got a puncture. So he's only done 5 laps on these soft tyres, and he's got a puncture on the front left tyre. Manages to bring it home in 13th, and George, the final finisher. But Josh, with an absolutely fantastic performance so far tonight, to take the victory in the feature race. Had the pole position and the victory. They'll be delighted with that performance. Flip Flop Fish coming through on the alternative strategy to get 2nd position. Thanks for keeping it clean on penalties. And Andenge holding on to 3rd place in the end. So the result from that feature race, race 9 of the FOR F2 season, it is Josh with victory and pole position. Flip Flop Fish in 2nd, Andenge 3rd, Artiero 4th. Penalties cost him from what would have been his first podium of the season, but still a great result nonetheless. Paulie Orange taking 5th and the 2 points for fastest lap. Aylan, Westy, Jonathan Cox rounded out the top 8, which will give Jonathan Cox pole position for the sprint. And then it is Jon Palainen, Lawrence rounding out the points. Hibilu in 11th, Lee Findlay 12th. He'll be disappointed with that. He'll be hoping for a better sprint race, as will Droftas. George was the final finisher, and championship leader Borussia out of the race, which does mean after that feature race, Andenge has taken the lead of the championship. But we've seen what Borussia has done from further down the field in the sprint race before. We saw Josh take victory from the back of the grid in the sprint last time out. This is going to be fast and it's going to be furious. 5 laps of Silverstone coming up very shortly. So all the drivers will now just be readying up. Looks a bit sunnier this time around. They'll all be starting on whatever fresh tyres they have left, so it'll be interesting to see if some drivers have to start on the hard tyre. That has happened quite often in the sprint races, and it does put them at a big disadvantage, especially off the start line. Flip Flop Fish, he of course started 2nd in that race, had a nightmare start and managed to recover, so he'll be hoping for better than that this time around. So we wait and see now for final couple of drivers to ready up in this session. It'll be 5 laps in the sprint race. Borussia, the championship leader, at the back. Josh in 8th place. Don't be too surprised if he takes 2 wins out of 2 from Silverstone. The lights are coming on now. Jonathan Cox on pole position. 5 lights are on. We're racing in the sprint race at Silverstone. Westy getting a bit of a wheel spin, but he's got a better start than Jonathan Cox, who's forced Aylan slightly wide there. So it's Westy who takes the lead into turn 1. Jonathan Cox just behind. Aylan holding on to 3rd place. Paulie Orange all over the back of Artiero, and Denge hopping over the curb, and that's putting him at risk of Josh, who's already moved up a position, as in fact there's been contact between them. Josh and Paulie Orange have made contact. I believe that's dropped both of them down the field slightly. So Westy, Jonathan Cox, Aylan getting ahead. Artiero just behind. Paulie Orange getting around the outside of Lawrence. We've got a yellow flag in sector 1. That is for Droftas, who has gone round, I believe, very early on at this stage in the race. So looks like it being a pointless weekend once again for him. But it's Westy, 1.3 seconds ahead of Jonathan Cox as they head out of Luffield on lap 1. Aylan in 3rd. You can just see the tyres that everyone is on there. Those that on a fresh set of softs will have the advantage. Of course, Josh dropping even further down the field. Has he got damage on his front wing, I wonder? Is he just taking it very slow at the moment? He seems very steady. I can't see any damage on his car at the moment. No, he just seems to be recovering slightly. So he's down in 13th. He's not had an ideal sprint race. He's going to have to do another great comeback. But Westy, he's taking the opportunity this time to escape. You'll be happy that he got past Jonathan Cox on the start. 2.5 seconds the gap as Alan closing up to the back of the ART. Was forced slightly wide by him heading towards Abbey. Bit of another exciting first lap, as we always get in these sprint races. Lee Findlay getting past Anden, so the two Tridents swapping places. Lee Findlay, can he get a podium and recover from what was a bad feature race? Already onto the second lap as Alan down the inside before we even get to Abbey. And Jonathan Cox trying to hold it off. In fact, he has managed to do so. But Alan's just going to have way more grip, under braking into the loop section and holds on to that place. Frustrates Jonathan Cox slightly wide, and Artiero, he might be able to stick a nose in here. Finished 4th in the feature race. He's 4th at the moment in the sprint. That's going to compromise him ever so slightly. So we've got Jonathan Cox and Alan there. Paulie Orange just behind. You can see 4 cars all battling for position here. Alan's going to try it around the outside. Jonathan Cox has ran wide again at Brooklands. He's going to come on track just in between this battle for Artiero and Paulie Orange, doing well to avoid the pair of them. And that's given Alan at 2nd place, Artiero 3rd, Jonathan Cox in 4th. Lee Findlay's now moving up as well. He's getting himself involved. He loves to be feisty in this sprint race. And Josh and Hevila aren't too far behind these. It's pretty much a 12-car battle we've got going on here for 2nd and to 13th, as Bivusha has actually gone round slightly. I'm not sure if he's just ran wide into Cops. He's now dropped just in front of his teammate. This is absolute bedlam almost happening here. But Jonathan Cox holding up Lee Findlay at the moment. He is looking very, very racy indeed. No DRS until next time around. Westy, he's checked out in front of this race. Alan and Arturo following him as well. Lee Findlay locking up. Paulie Orange tried to defend on the inside. There was contact between them, but Lee Findlay has got ahead, and Danger will be hoping to get ahead as well. Arturo doing a great job on those hard tyres in 3rd position at the moment, but he's already 6.2 seconds behind Westy. Flip Flop Fish, he's closing up now. We can see Lawrence and Jonathan Cox. Jonathan Cox is actually dropping back quite a few places here. He hasn't got any damage that I can see on his car, but he's not enjoying these hard tyres at this moment in the sprint race. John Polina now, Flip Flop Fish, you just saw his front wing trying to get on the outside. There we see Jonathan Cox just defending. Flip Flop Fish says thank you very much. Josh gets past John Polina as well, so the Virtuosi is swapping around. They are in 10th and 11th place at the moment, and knowing Josh's pace, I wouldn't be surprised to see him pick up decent points in this race. To Flip Flop Fish, he goes for the inside into Brooklands of Jonathan Cox overhead. Jonathan Cox giving him enough space. He knows that'll give him the inside line into Luffield. Who will get the better exit out of the corner? You'd expect it to be the Carlin. There's a bit of rubbing between the two of them. You don't want to do that too much, boys, because you've got Josh not too far behind you either. Flip Flop Fish takes that position. Josh will just have to hang back for now. Taps the back of the ART, but no damage done. Seems to have been a fairly clean sprint race. We haven't seen too much damage between the cars. Droftas has dropped a few places, as did Josh and Borussia earlier on, of course. But, oh, in fact, Josh got caught out there by the lack of grip from Jonathan Cox, I think. And he's just dropped back. So just as I was saying that, it's going to be a no score, you feel, this time around for Josh. 2nd week in a row where he's won a race and not been able to score points in the other race, and he's got himself a 10-second time penalty as well, just to rub salt into the wound. Lee Findlay, though, he's up into 3rd place, where he finished in the sprint race last time in Austria. Arturo, though, he's wanting to move up from 4th. He doesn't want to be the guy who misses out on a podium by 1 place 2 times in a row, but he's round wide now into Abbey, gets himself a penalty. And Paulie Orange, that's going to give him a perfect opportunity to maybe move up. Already on the penultimate lap of this race, Josh pulled into the pit lane and retired. Unsurprising, really. It just went so well for him in the feature race. Just had a lot of pace with this weekend. Just didn't come together in the sprint race. We saw him just making slight contact with Jonathan Cox with the physics on these cars. So often that does send the car behind around. And unfortunately, that was the case for him. So we're down to 14 runners. 1.5 laps to go. Arturo's moving all over the track to try and get close to Lee Findlay, but I think primarily defend from Paulie Orange, who is all over the back of him on the soft tyres, of course. Arturo's hard tyres will be slower, even though the softs will be starting to wear more and more. I think Paulie Orange needs to get this done sooner rather than later. He's not going to have many more opportunities to do it. Of course, one more lap remaining after this one, and Westy 6.5 seconds ahead at the moment. He'll be looking good to take his first win in the F2 Championship and his second podium after a second in Austria in the sprint race. Arturo going defensive. They've both got DRS, the Campos and the Dams car. Paulie Orange not able to go around the outside this time, although Arturo has gone very wide out of Stowe. We see that happen quite often in the game, very lenient with track limits at that point of the circuit. Whereas these two are battling for 4th and 5th. You can just see up ahead Lee Findlay closing onto the back of Aylan. We are on the final lap of this sprint race now. Westy, Aylan, Lee Findlay, Arturo, Paulie Orange, Andens, Lawrence and Flip Flop Fish. The points scorers at the moment. Paulie Orange almost alongside. In fact, he's switched to round the outside, heading into the loop. What a move by the Dams driver. It looked as though he was going to be along for the inside line. Said, no, I'm going to go the long way round, and it has worked out perfectly for him. He won't have the DRS though, I don't believe, and this could just give Arturo an advantage. You can see DRS open on the orange car. He's going to have the inside line into Brooklands, and Paulie Orange might have to just try and hold this off all the way around the outside. He's going to have a slight overlap into Luffield. There's contact between the two of them. Luckily for those, there's no one close enough behind them to do anything about it. Paulie Orange getting a bit sideways coming out of Luffield, and Arturo is hanging on to that 4th place for now, and Aylan is still ahead of Lee Findlay. This is going to be oh so close on the final few corners here. There's just all both heading up to Maggett, Beckett and Chapel now. You can see the Arden and the Trident just ahead. George picking up a penalty. He is currently in 11th place in the Prema. It's not been a good weekend for the Prema team at the moment. DRS open on the Trident of Lee Findlay as he tries to close up to Aylan. He's going to have one opportunity into Stowe. He's going for it late on the brakes in the Trident. Locks up slightly. Aylan's trying to hold it off all the way around the outside. He's going to have the inside for the club corner. These are going to be battling right to the end, and you can see Paulie Orange just behind as well. Westy, he's going to take the victory in this race. Lee Findlay has got ahead of Aylan. Paulie Orange, he's still battling with Arturo. Paulie Orange has ran very wide, and that's allowed Andenge to go all the way around the outside of him. So Lee Findlay second, Aylan third. Paulie Orange did take 4th on penalties in the end, so turns out that battling didn't make too much difference to him. Very close battle between him and Arturo. Arturo finishing 5th, Flip Flop Fish 6th, Andenge 7th. Didn't quite see who took 8th. I believe it might have been Jonathan Cox or Lawrence. It was pretty clear straight from the start who was going to take the win in that sprint race. It was Westy in the end. His first victory of the season. Lee Findlay, 3 podiums out of 4 races. He'll be very happy with that. And Andenge, said before, Aylan, sorry, I said before tonight, he'd be one of my picks to maybe get a podium in the sprint race, and he's done just that. So the results from another chaotic sprint race, which is what you've come to expect given it's only 5 laps. It was Westy taking the victory. Lee Findlay moving up 10 places and getting himself fastest lap. In second, Aylan third, Paulie Orange 4th, Arturo 5th, Flip Flop Fish 6th, and then 7th. Lawrence taking 8th place, Linen 9th, Borussia 10th, Hibilo 11th, George in 12th, Jonathan Cox down in 13th, Droftas 14th, and Josh the sole DNF from that race. We just get up now how the drivers did over the whole weekend. It was Josh having the best weekend of all the drivers there. 29 points, Flip Flop Fish 22, but we didn't really see any massive scorers. But what that does mean is Andenge will be the championship leader at the halfway point of the season. His 17 points tonight give him a slender lead at the moment over Borussia. He's now 5 points ahead of Borussia at this moment. So Andenge taking the lead of this championship with his 3 podiums from the 10 races so far. You might have to watch out though for some of these other guys. We've seen the pace of Josh clearly. One of the most dominant qualifying sessions I have ever commentated on across both F1 games, across F1 and F2. That was absolutely superb from Josh, I must say. He did a great job in that feature race, just didn't come together in the sprint race. That's one of the things you have to deal with in F2, of course. You start further back in the midfield, and sometimes things do not quite go to plan for him. Lee Findlay, he had the opposite situation to what he had to what Josh had, I should say. Lee Finley, things not going for him in the feature race, but salvaging some good points for him in the sprint race. Aylan we saw getting his first podium in that sprint race as well. One of the big stories to come from this meeting is Borussia. No points for the championship leader. That is the first 2 races he has failed to score in this season, and it's not really coming at an ideal time with all these fast drivers coming in to the F2 League. Some of them are coming in to the F1 League as well. And don't forget, we've got the PC exhibition race. George will be taking you through that again on Friday. Myself and George will be taking you through the F1 for the German Grand Prix on Saturday on the PS4. And next Tuesday, I will be bringing you action again from round 6 of the F2 Championship, and that will be coming from the Hungaroring. So, from myself, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Quick reminder, once again, to check out our sponsors. The stream is sponsored by MIXT Energy, and you will find a link to them below in the description. Remember to use the code FOR2020 to get 10% off. There's also the link for Player One Coffee. You can get your exclusive discount down there below. But I will see you on Saturday. As I said, George will be here on Friday with the PC exhibition race, and F2 will be back next Tuesday. Good night.